Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode on Tim's Vinyl Confessions, the very first deep dive series that I've done on Tim's Vinyl Confessions. There's been a lot of great channels doing deep dives on various bands. It's just a way to really get into a band's catalog. And the idea has been in front of me all these years, and I thought, why don't I try it? Now, what better band for me to talk about than a band that I wrote a book about, namely Y&T. And I thought, yeah, I don't think anybody else has done a Y&T deep dive. And so, who better to have on a deep dive than like king of the deep dives, John the Music Nut. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great, Tim. I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. Of course, John is one of several contributors to Down for the Count, the Y&T album review. It's out now. It's on Amazon. I'll have the link posted below. Thanks to everybody that's purchased. And I guess you could say this is a companion to that a little bit, but John was one of the contributors. So I thought, yeah, I'll see if John's interested, and he was. So we're gonna dig into each of the Y&T studio albums, much like we do in the book. Well, but a little bit different because I'm not asking the same questions that I asked, and I'm actually giving my kind of 2 cents on each album. So we're going to start 1976 with the album that started it all off, debut album, Yesterday and Today. So very, I would say a very 70s rock looking cover, kind of a blurry photo. Yeah, I mean, Dave's got a flying V, which is kind of cool. You're used to seeing him with a Les Paul. I mean, Leonard Hayes, like especially on the back cover, that could be Alex Van Halen.
Yeah,
that's true. So, but yeah, the logo. I mean, I've mentioned it before. I mean, the full name was kind of a clunky name, but they did kind of come up with a cool logo. Although it too is very, very 70s looking.
Oh yeah.
So. This came out in 1976 on London Records. Not your not your number one choice for a hard rock label, but hey, they had the Stones, so and it's got something fun. I've had this printed off for years and years and years. This is a print of an advertisement for the first album.
Okay.
A new source of energy along the top there. And it's got a few of the photos in the back cover. And the blurb says, this San Francisco group could light up an entire city with its energy. And it's cut off a little bit, but it's got words like exciting. Not sure what that's, coltish, frenzied, relentless. But anyway, yeah. So there were articles about them, and one of the things that I kind of pick on like London Records is that even their record label, it doesn't look like a rock label.
No.
But I got to tell you, this particular record I found this in 1995, and the first two, the Yesterday and Today records are really hard to find in any form. But I didn't have either of the first two records, and I actually stumbled upon this in the wild in Halifax, and I just stared at it. I could not believe holy cow, it's the first Y&T album.
Yeah.
All I knew on it was 25 Hours a Day and Beautiful Dreamer. So I only knew 2 of the 9 songs on it. Actually, I should back that up. I had the album, I didn't have the vinyl. It wasn't until 1993 that I found it in any form, because this company called Mondo Records reissued the first 2, Yesterday and Today.
Correct.
And they're rare now because it's one of those get it, in that window when it's out. But it gave me a chance to hear the album. But so how familiar, I guess we'll start by saying, how familiar were you with this album? Let's hear your thoughts on the Yesterday and Today album.
These Yesterday and Today and Struck Down are by far the albums I'm the least familiar with. I could talk about all the album song and verse except for these 2. I've only heard this album on YouTube. They don't have this on Spotify. And I typically do like to buy the hard copy CD, but I don't own these albums. but I've listened to them many times on YouTube. So why did I just never got around to buying them? After listening to these more, I will probably get these I will get these down the road. But like you, the songs that I've known for decades are the two you said, 25 Hours a Day and Beautiful Dreamer, because 25 Hours a Day was on Open Fire, their first live album from 85, and Beautiful Dreamer was on Best of 81 to 85 and a newly recorded version from 1980.
Yeah.
Instead of 76. So
yeah, it's weird. I'm not really sure what that's all about, other than they might have recorded it to put on Earthshaker, but I've never been too sure.
Right. And that was what I got from my research as well.
Yeah.
Although it is a different version. I mean, it's the same song, but there are improvements on the 80 version, which I'll go over.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. So I don't know. How do we want to do this? You want song by song and get into it?
Sure.
I'll also show off, just because I'm a format completist. Well, these were two of the hardest things to get. The 8-track
nice.
of Yesterday and
Wow.
Today with a slipcase, and the slipcase has the cover art. This does not. This is what I refer to in Unspooled as a naked 8-track.
Oh, yeah.
And I was lucky enough to find, I think on eBay, this copy, which is in really, really good condition. I mean, this is mind-blowing to me. But I had almost an equally hard time finding the cassette. Cassette's hard to find of this, because there would have only been one issue of it. And it's got this interesting blue color scheme, this really small window in it. Yeah. So it's really hard to find. I'm hoping that Rock Candy or somebody like that can reissue those first two albums so people can get them again. Because you're stuck with used copies, and with used copies you're paying more, and you're also taking your chance that you're going to get something that skips. So hopefully some company reissues these, probably Rock Candy, because they do such a good job. But so the first track, Animal Woman, what do you think of this one?
It's a good rocket opener, but the first thing that you find apparent from listening to this song, if you are a fan, been listening to their albums for decades, is Dave didn't find his voice yet. He doesn't sing with the conviction that would come later, and honestly, it would come the next album. You got Phil and Dave kind of doing back and forth on the vocals here. Phil sounds like Andy Powell from Wishbone Ash, and I think it works with that band, but I don't think it works in Y&T. I don't think Phil should have ever been a lead vocalist. Backing vocals, tremendous bass player, tremendous writer, but I don't think he doesn't have a strong enough voice to be a lead. I think it's a good opener. It's got a lot of wah-wah on here, and you'll hear a lot down the album. This album, as far as the production techniques and the guitar sounds and the recording, it screams 76. But it's not, it's done on a shoestring budget. It's a good opener. I don't think it's a great opener. I think there's better songs on the album. But, it's good. It's good as an opener. They would have much better ones later, of course, but they're starting out on the right track here.
It's baby steps.
Correct.
And I agree. It does kind of burst out of the gate right away. And one of the first things you notice is, I think the MVP of this album is Leonard Hayes on drums. Because first of all, the drums are the best thing about this recording. The drums are recorded really, really loud and up front. And what I love about this is it's so live sounding. There's no click.
Nope.
Leonard's his own metronome. And if the song feels like it needs to speed up a little bit, he speeds it up. And if he needs to take it back a little bit, he takes it back. He does all that himself. Yep. But the first voice you hear is Phil. And then you hear Dave. It's not unlike early Kiss when Paul and Gene would trade lines like that.
Exactly.
And it's pretty raunchy, lyrically. There's a few songs like that in those first two albums. but it's raucous and it kind of sets the tone, but it doesn't have that Y&T melody that you're known for, even in the midst of heavy songs. So,
Correct.
you know, kind of announces the band to the world that, hey, this is a heavy rock band at a time when there weren't a million heavy rock bands. So moving on to a much more recognizable song, 25 Hours a Day. Your thoughts?
Joey wrote this riff, I believe, and I found that out in the On With the Show documentary. And what a fantastic riff! This
Yeah.
is one of the standouts on the album. You can see why they put this out on Open Fire after they were really gaining momentum here in the States. Favorite song on the album. It is a killer. The chorus doesn't come in until later, which,
Yep.
which if you're familiar with the Open Fire version, you hear it immediately after that first verse. Well, actually, it would be the second verse because there's a little solo there in between the first and second verses, and then you go to the 25 hours, 25
Yeah.
hours. So here there's like you got two solos going on, and then they go into the chorus, which is a simple yet very effective chorus, and it kills. This is a kick-ass track. I've always enjoyed this track. It sounds great live. I wish they still play. I don't think they play this live anymore, but the 3 times I saw them, they didn't. But yeah, this is a killer. And you're hoping here when you hear this album, you're like, okay, well, I wonder when they were thinking, okay, when should we go in this direction? Because this clearly works. This clearly paves the way for that Earthshaker sound.
Yeah.
That melodic hard rock. Hard, yet catchy and melodic. So yeah, I love this song.
Agreed. Totally agreed. I think that they made a very smart decision when, I don't know when they started doing it, but being familiar with the Open Fire version is that I'm going to guess most people are, because those
Yes.
two albums are so obscure, right? Um,
Right.
they made the right decision saying, hey, let's bring that chorus in sooner and then repeat it, because it's, you know, what you hear it once and you get it in your head. It's so easy to shout back.
Yep.
I remember the first time I heard the CD, it's going along and it's recognizable, right? It comes on with that riff, which is a great riff. I agree.
Right.
But where the chorus, you're waiting for the chorus and it goes into a solo and then it goes into the second verse. And you're like, whoa, wait, what? And like, don't save a great chorus like that till the end, boys. Like you want to get, like, this could have been a single.
Oh
Um,
yes.
and it's funny. I remember thinking that when Tesla did the reel to reel, the 2 discs of covers, it would have been so cool to hear them do a Y&T song. For some reason, I thought this would be a really good one for them to cover. I don't know why. I know they're fans, but yeah, it's not that different. So that you know you have to have somebody tell you, by the way, this is that song that's on Open Fire. But it is kind of neat how Dave introduces it as, you know, something from yesterday and today. Does that mean the band, or does that mean the name of the album? It's really both. The riff is kind of it's almost kind of like the Pretty Woman riff, but it's kind of turned inside out
Yeah.
a little
Good
bit. And
point.
it's also not unlike, at least the very beginning of it, not unlike what would end up on LA Rocks, which is
Okay.
another
Yep.
great riff,
Right.
or Boys Night Out, or Dance, Dance, Dance. Same song. Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
great song. And I agree. It really paved the way for there's, you know, it's heavy, it's rocking, it's anthemic, and it's catchy. It's Y&T. Here we are,
Right.
you know, it sounds more like a song that could have come out in 1985, but here we are
Yes.
in 1976. So there you go.
Yes.
Track 3. Is this? No, it's not. Okay, it's one of the longer songs in the album. Game Playing Woman. What are your thoughts on this one?
I don't think this works. I think it starts out okay, and then they're trying to go prog, and that's not them. Uh, the playing here, as it throughout the album, is very top notch. I mean, for a first album, the musicianship on here is so strong. But you know, as soon as it goes into those 70s studio effects and it gets all atmospheric, it's like, what happened? Where are you going with this? Dave's solo is wicked on here, but it just, and Leonard's drumming, very strong. But no, it's like, then when you hear this, you're like, okay, they don't know where they want to be yet. So that's how I feel. Like, there's a lot of debut albums where you listen to things and they're trying to find their sound, but while they're getting there, they're doing some interesting stuff. I don't think this is interesting. I don't think this works. It works at times. The musicianship is good, is strong, but the song doesn't work, in my opinion.
That's really funny. It's actually my favorite song on the album. I love it. But it's really aggressive. Like, I just, Leonard. They actually, I used to have a lot of bootleg CDs, and I had one from 2003, and I don't know if it was in Germany or not, but they did this, and it was good. The middle section, I know what you mean, but it's always reminded me of Led Zeppelin. It's always reminded me of either like Dazed and Confused, or especially How Many More Times. Down, 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 down.
Yeah.
It is kind of all over the place, but yeah, Leonard's drumming is just insane. Some of the fills he does, but
Yes.
but you're right. I mean, not everybody can be Van Halen. Not everybody can be Boston. You can't always have that magical debut album. Yet the beauty of that is you can go back and look at it with a smile and see the hints of brilliance to come. And also, you don't give us all your best stuff all at once.
Right.
So they're definitely finding their sound and finding
Yes.
what it is that they're best at.
Mhm.
So that takes us to takes us to the shortest song on the album, Come On Over. Another raunchy one. What do you think of this one?
This one's quite good. Here they're getting their mojo back. They're playing this more conviction. I didn't pay a lot of attention to the lyrics when I was revisiting this, but it's decent for what it is. It's not one of the standouts on the album, but at least they're going back to something that they do better than, in my opinion, they did on Game Playing World.
I think it's okay. There's not much of a chorus,
No.
but it's it's interesting. The tempo shifts back and forth, and it's just fun to hear the young band playing, and it definitely sounds like they're all playing in one room and just rocking out and probably having a really good time. Track 5, the side one closer. My heart plays to this one's a Dave Meniketti solo penned song. What do you think of this one?
Okay, so his first ballad that would be recorded, he would perfect this later, no question. He didn't perfect it yet. So this is a reflective ballad. It's okay, but what I don't like about it is, as great as Leonard plays throughout this album, he overplays on the ballads. You have to know when to use restraint. And I don't think he had that down yet. Because there's certain parts here he's throwing in a double bass, and I think he was a single bass player, but maybe he was a double bass pedal.
The triplets on the bass pedal, yeah.
Right. And I'm like, why is that here? That's too busy. And Dave's solos, he used to get so much out of so few notes. Well, he would later get so much out of so few notes. Here, he's overplaying just a little bit. Maybe it sounds like I'm nitpicking, but his soloing, I guess, I would say that by Earthshaker, he really got it. But here, it's just, he's trying something that he would perfect. He just didn't quite have it yet. And Leonard just overplays it. It's not one of my favorite tracks.
I like it, but I can see what you mean. It's definitely the first step in, they would do some fantastic, lengthy, majestic ballads.
Yes.
I Believe in You, Winds of Change, This Time. And this is kind of the first draft. Now, what I do like about this song, and there's connections, because I've said many times, I'm a really, really big fan of the early pre Steve Perry Journey, like the first three Journey albums. This reminds me of something that could have been on one of those Journey albums, except, Journey, that there'd be organ on it, right? But this sounds
Right.
like something that could have been on one of those early Journey albums. And Y&T were managed by Louis Bramey, who was partners with Herbie Herbert. So, there's a Bay Area connection.
Yes.
They were up and coming players. I mean, I have read different times that Meniketti was, in an influence on Neil Sean, maybe not so much in guitar playing, although I do hear a little bit of it, but in showmanship, being on stage and things like that. But yeah, this sounds like one of those songs. And there are songs, although I like them on those Journey albums, that they didn't know when to end them. They went
I
for
agree with
7
that.
minutes and they probably should have been 4.5. But
Correct.
again, early days, right?
Right.
And Dave does not quite have the vocals yet. He was the reluctant lead singer. He would have been perfectly
Correct.
happy to be the lead guitar player. Now, as the years went on, he would develop a great lead voice, and he would work on it, and which is probably why to this day he still has his voice, whereas a lot of guys even younger than him don't. He was 22 when he made this record. I mean, it's pretty
Yes.
amazing. It's pretty advanced guitar playing and pretty advanced songwriting.
No
So,
question.
so something that bands used to do in the 70s more so than the 80s, where you have a song that's the name of one of your albums, but it's not on that album. Um, song Earthshaker. What do you think of this one?
It's heavy. There, there's decent riffs in here. They're looking for a hook and they can't find it. It's a decent song. There's decent riffs, but you're looking for something to fully grab you in, and it just isn't there. Well played, but nothing, not as good as anything that would be on the album of the same name, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah,
So that
at
would
least
be
they
it.
recognized it was a cool title and they say, hey, we should use that. Um,
Mhm.
I think the catchiest thing about this song is that opening riff. And this is one song where I think Leonard maybe overplays, but the song calls for it. It's kind of got that
Yeah.
out of control feel to it, which fits here. Okay, next up, Fast Ladies, Very Slow Gin. What about this one?
Now this one I like better. This I like. It's got a good riff. It's the bass lines from Phil here, very great counter bass lines. It doesn't have a strong chorus, but the song works much better than something like Come On Over or Earthshaker. So they're looking for something here. They're on the right track. It's decent, but it's not what we would get later.
Yeah. When I talked to Martin Popoff for the book, he brought up something that I'd never thought of before. You could almost hear Van Halen doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not on one of their albums, but on some of those songs that didn't make the albums that a lot of us fans have heard. It almost sounds like something they would have done. I think that Y&T had a bigger influence on Van Halen than they've ever copped to, but that's just my opinion.
I believe
Um,
that.
Next up is the only single I have from this album, the charmingly titled Alcohol. This is a promo single. Now, I have some thoughts on this song, but I'll hear yours. We'll hear yours first, John.
I can see why it was released as a single because it is catchy. But Leonard Shinov sang it. Leonard, no, I mean, when you have someone with that kind of voice singing a song, it screams bar band song. It doesn't scream big time. It sounds like it's something that would have went over well in the local pub, but then if you heard it on the radio, you'd be like, oh, it's not so hot. It sounded better when I was drinking last night at the bar at 1 a.m. But it is catchy. It's got that little shuffle thing going on. So I can understand that. I mean, to me, in hindsight, 25 hours a day would have been a single, but this is one of the catchier songs as far as its rhythm goes. But no, the Leonard should not have sang this.
it's funny because not only Leonard, not only looking at him, but also listening to him, especially on this song, for some reason, I pictured John Belushi.
Yeah.
Like someone that shouldn't be singing, but he's decided to sing.
Right.
Um, and but I mean, the chorus is so simple and so stupidly catchy
Right.
that I'm really surprised that this could really have caught on in the bars and become a bar band standard, like nationwide, and you know, one of those songs that bands play to death, even if they don't know who originally did it, because I
Right.
mean, you can just picture a bar on just alcohol, you know, or you know, have it hearing the song years later reminds them of like the worst hangover they ever had, which is kind of what the
Yeah.
lyrics are about, right? So yeah, I
Yep.
understand why they did it, but I don't know. There's something about Leonard's personality that comes out in the lyrics, but at the same time, I don't necessarily hear Dave singing it, but I don't know. I don't know what the
Yeah.
solution would have been. But, you know, I almost wonder what would happen if maybe another band had covered this, and maybe, you know, because I think about things like how many covers that Nazareth did. And this song makes me think of Hair of the Dog. It's got that
Yeah.
same, you know, you can latch onto it. And it's a bar band standard. So
Hmm.
it didn't happen, but hey, you know, that obviously just letting off some steam with that. And I can, you know, I can see where they said, hey, nobody's just had a song called Alcohol. Let's write one, you know, let's get right to the point. Never mind cold gin,
Right.
alcohol. Well, you know, so that takes us to the closing track, Beautiful Dreamer. What do you think?
Well, before we get into that, everyone watching, do not confuse this with the Brad Paisley song "Alcohol" that came a few decades later. That's at
Oh, yeah.
yeah, which is actually a very humorous and memorable song. I mean, this is not that totally different track. Beautiful
Can you
Dreamer,
imagine if somebody as well known as that covered Y&T, what that would do
that
for
would be awesome. It'd be awesome because of the royalties they get. You know,
Oh
that would be
yeah,
really good.
yeah, yeah. But
Yeah, so Beautiful Dreamer. Now, this is the original that is a minute and a half longer than the one that many people, including myself, would hear later on Best of 81 to 85. Here, you can still see that Davis, his voice actually sounds better on this song than all the others. It's like he's finding that deeper timbre of his voice on here that I think you would hear him use on later albums. It worked so well. When I listen to this album, I think, okay, here you really hear the potential of the band. The solo is excellent. It's a nice lyrical guitar solo, which Dave does so well. Good chorus, blazing solo at the end. How many blazing solos did Dave end songs with on those great albums and even later on? So yeah, my second favorite song, it was my favorite next to 25 Hours a Day. I could see why they re-recorded it and they made it tighter on Best of 81 85, and they beefed up the vocals and the chorus on there. And so they felt the right, this is a good song. Maybe we should redo this now that we're a more mature band, we're a more experienced band, we're better at what we do. Maybe we should revisit this. But yes, I like this song quite a bit.
yeah, yeah, I'm exactly the same as you. The first time I ever heard it was on that Best of 81 to 85, which actually had come out just as I was getting into Y&T. It was really good timing. And that's, to me, that's the definitive version. Not just because I heard it first, I just think it's the best version. Um,
Correct.
I like the version on Yesterday and Today Live too. And it's funny is that
Yes.
arrangement wise, it's the same song, but they do something different every time. There's slight little changes, the way that the order the verses are in, just little things like that. The drums come in
Yeah.
at a different time, but I'm just used to that 1980 version. But yeah, they wrote a great song here. I mean, interesting. It's Dave and Leonard that wrote this, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's catchy. It's melodic. It's very commercial. Like it should, you know, maybe I'll say it's too long to be a single. They could have always edited it, but there's a good song in there. like
Yes.
really good song in there. And yeah, in 4 short years, Dave's vocals got that much better when he recorded it in 1980. It, you know, the fact that it's got a copyright of A&M tells me it's got to have been recorded for Earthshaker. And as far as I know, it was never a B-side or anything. I'm glad that they dug it up and put it on there. It was a nice little, I didn't know it at the time. It was a nice little plus because it's never appeared anywhere else. I again, getting back to the Neil Sean thing, I don't know who picked it up from who, but when I hear Dave do those runs, like, you know, those things in threes, very much makes me think of Neil's playing, you know, that just that simple melodic playing, but can go into a fast run and then back into something melodic. I don't know, maybe they were influencing each other, but it's really good. And it's a really good way to close the album. And again, they're starting, that's their first where they kind of do the song and they're like, all right, here's the ending to the album. And they kind of play it out.
Yes.
And I don't know. I don't know what I would have thought of this in 1976 if I was an active, you know, looking for hard rock bands. I'd like to think that I would have at least heard some potential. But yeah, I mean, you know, everything would improve in leaps and bounds. The vocals would improve. The arrangements would improve, the songwriting would improve, but the raw materials on offer here are just astounding. I mean, this is as good a start as any. And you know, as someone like me who's long said, I don't understand why this band ever broke big. I can understand why they didn't break big right away. But
Correct.
looking back, this is a fine debut album for a bunch of young guys from the 70s. So that's it, guys. That's our thoughts on Yesterday and Today, the first album, 1976. We're going to go through the entire Y&T catalog. If you are interested in checking this band out, good luck finding a copy of the first album. You're probably better off trying to find a record. But yeah, unfortunately, those first two remain hard to find. And there's also, I should show, a few years ago, the band themselves put this out, which is called 1-2
I've never seen
via
that.
their website. And this is just both of the albums on one CD because they're, you know, they're relatively short albums. There's no credits inside it or anything. It's just a real quick way to get them. This came out, I think, in 2009. There's no copyright date on here, but this came out through the band's website. So maybe even if they put this out again, this would be a way to get the songs. So there you go, guys. We're going to move on. Tell us what you think. What do you think of the first Y&T album? Haven't checked it out? You should check it out. Haven't checked out Y&T? You should do that too. Want to read more about Y&T? Well, then this, you know. So there you go. John, thanks for sitting in on the first episode of our Y&T Deep Dive. And we will see you all again very, very soon.